She didn't speak. She didn't hesitate. She only switched the glass, quietly, while the billionaire watched her, and realized too late that his life had been seconds from ending. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. And if stories where one silent choice changes everything pull you in, stay glued, click like, and hit subscribe, because this one doesn't let go. Luxury. Silence. Two lives moving in opposite directions. About to collide. The ballroom smelled like money. Not cash exactly. More like polished marble, aged wine, imported cologne, and the faint electric hum of power that followed certain men wherever they went. Chandeliers floated overhead like frozen galaxies, scattering warm light over silk gowns, tailored suits, and smiles practiced so well they no longer reached the eyes. At the center of it all sat Victor Langford. Billionaire. Visionary. The man whose name could raise stock prices or bury careers with a single phone call. Victor lifted his glass slowly, watching the amber liquid inside catch the light. Around him, laughter bloomed and died on command. Executives leaned in when he spoke. Politicians nodded too eagerly. Everyone wanted something from him. Access, approval, forgiveness. No one asked how he was. He didn't expect them to. Victor had learned long ago that power was loud on the outside and unbearably quiet within. His face remained calm, unreadable, carved by years of control. Only his fingers, resting against the crystal stem, betrayed him, tightening just a fraction too much. Across the room, she moved differently. Her name was Elena. She wore the same uniform as the other servers. Black dress, white apron, hair neatly pinned back, but she didn't blend in. Not because she stood out, but because she paid attention. Elena noticed things. The way guests avoided eye contact with security. The way laughter spiked whenever Victor Langford raised his voice, even when nothing funny had been said. The way his glass had been refilled 3 times, though he'd barely touched it. She had learned awareness the hard way. Years of surviving on instinct had trained her eyes to read rooms the way others read menus. Danger didn't always announce itself. Sometimes it wore a smile and poured a drink. Elena approached the table with steady steps, balancing a tray with practiced ease. Her heartbeat was calm, but her mind wasn't. Something was wrong. She couldn't yet explain it. Only that familiar tightening in her chest. The same feeling she'd had years ago, moments before everything in her life had collapsed. Victor glanced up as she neared. Their eyes met. It lasted less than a second. But in that second, something passed between them, unspoken, electric. Victor noticed her stillness. The way her gaze didn't linger on him in awe or fear like the others. It was sharp, measuring. Elena reached the table. She placed the tray down, and as her hand moved to set the glass in front of him, she paused. No one else noticed. Not the executives mid-conversation. Not the violinist swelling into a crescendo. Not the guards standing watch at the edges of the room. Only Victor saw it. Her fingers hesitated. Then, without a word, she switched the glass. The movement was subtle, elegant, almost invisible. But Victor felt it like a thunderclap. His eyes dropped to the crystal, then back to her face. Elena didn't look at him. She simply nodded once and walked away. Victor Langford sat frozen, the untouched glass before him suddenly feeling heavier than gold. And for the first time in decades, the most powerful man in the room felt afraid. The moment stretches. The silence screams. Victor didn't lift the glass. That alone was unusual enough to draw attention. Conversations around the table softened, then stuttered. A senior board member cleared his throat. Someone laughed too loudly, too late. Victor Langford was known for many things: ruthlessness, precision, ambition. But hesitation was not one of them. He stared at the drink. The amber liquid looked identical to the one Elena had just taken away. Same color. Same clarity. Same faint condensation sliding down the crystal like a slow tear. Yet his instincts, honed by decades of corporate warfare and personal betrayal, were screaming. He turned slightly in his chair, eyes tracking Elena as she moved across the ballroom. She didn't rush. Didn't look back. Her posture remained calm, professional, as if she'd done nothing more than correct a seating arrangement. But Victor had seen the pause. He'd seen the decision. And decisions made in silence were often the deadliest, or the most saving. "Everything all right, Victor?" asked Harold Wynne, his longtime legal counsel, leaning in with a smile that never quite relaxed. Victor didn't answer immediately. His gaze remained fixed on Elena's back. "She switched my glass," Victor said quietly. Harold blinked. "I'm sorry." "The waitress," Victor continued, voice low, controlled. "She switched my glass." A ripple of confusion passed around the table. Harold chuckled, waving a dismissive hand. "Probably a mistake. These events are chaos behind the scenes." Victor finally looked at him. The smile vanished from Harold's face. "Nothing in my life happens by mistake," Victor said. Across the room, Elena slipped through the service doors into the side corridor. The moment the heavy doors closed behind her, her breath hitched. Just once. She pressed her palm briefly against the cool wall, grounding herself. Her hands were steady, but her heart pounded so loud she was sure someone could hear it. "You did the right thing," she told herself. She replayed the seconds again and again. The glass had been positioned wrong. The garnish, slightly bruised. The smell, barely perceptible, sharp beneath the alcohol. It was something her father had taught her once, back when life was simpler and danger had a face she trusted. If it smells clean where it shouldn't, don't drink it. Elena pushed away from the wall and returned to work. She didn't know if Victor Langford would act. She didn't know if she'd just saved a life, or ruined her own. Back in the ballroom, Victor stood. That alone silenced the room. "I need a moment," he said, already walking away. Two security guards moved instantly, flanking him as he followed the path Elena had taken minutes earlier. Harold hurried after him. "Victor, if this is about the drink, we can." "Stop," Victor said. They reached the service corridor. Victor pointed to the glass still resting on the table behind them. "Have it tested." Quietly. "Now." One guard hesitated. "Sir, protocol." "Now." Minutes stretched like hours. Victor waited in a private antechamber, jaw tight, memories surfacing uninvited. The threats. The lawsuits. The rivals who smiled in public and sharpened knives in private. He had known this day might come, just not like this. And not because of a waitress. A knock. The head of security stepped in, face pale. "Sir," he said carefully. "The lab confirmed it. The drink was tampered with. Slow-acting toxin. Odorless. Lethal. The room tilted. Victor exhaled slowly, a sound halfway between relief and disbelief. "She knew," he murmured. Security nodded. "Yes, sir." Victor straightened. "Find her." Meanwhile, Elena was clearing tables near the back when a shadow fell across her tray. She looked up. 2 security guards. "Miss," one said, polite but firm, "Mr. Langford would like to speak with you." Around them, the noise of the ballroom surged on, unaware that a life had nearly ended or that another was about to change forever. Elena swallowed. She nodded and followed them. If you're feeling the tension already, pause for a second and tell us in the comments. What would you have done if you were her? Sometimes the quietest choices matter most. Truth demands a price. Silence demands more. The private lounge overlooked the city like a throne room made of glass. Victor Langford stood with his back to the windows, hands clasped behind him, watching Elena through the reflection. She sat across from him at a small marble table, her posture straight, her expression carefully neutral. She looked calm. But calm, Victor had learned, was often a shield. "You switched my glass," he said at last. Elena didn't flinch, didn't deny it, didn't apologize. "Yes," she said. One word. "Honest." "Bare." Victor studied her the way he studied hostile takeovers. Slowly, searching for the crack. "Why?" Elena met his eyes now. They were darker than he'd expected. Older. "Because you were about to drink it." That wasn't the answer he was looking for. Most people would have alerted security, Victor said. A flicker crossed her face, something like a shadow of a smile. Most people wouldn't have been believed. Silence settled between them. Victor leaned forward. "You smelled it." "Yes." "That toxin is designed to be undetectable." "My father taught me to notice what doesn't belong," she said quietly. The word father landed harder than she intended. Victor caught it. "Where did you learn that?" he asked. Elena hesitated. "Just long enough. He worked in private security. Before he died." Another silence. Victor straightened. "You understand the position you've put yourself in." "I do. You interfered with a high-level assassination attempt." "I interfered with a glass," she said evenly. The rest was already there. Something in her tone, controlled, unafraid, unsettled him more than panic would have. Victor turned toward the window. The city pulsed below, alive, indifferent. "You could have walked away," he said. "Yes." "Why didn't you?" Elena looked down at her hands. They were steady now. "Because no one else would." Victor closed his eyes briefly. That answer. It echoed somewhere deep. A place he hadn't visited in years. "Do you know how many people sit at my table hoping I'll die?" he asked. "No," she said. "But I know what it's like to be invisible while danger happens in plain sight." He turned back. "For someone invisible," Victor said, "you just saved the most visible man in the room." The door opened softly. Head of security. "Sir, we traced the source. The poison was added at the bar. We're narrowing suspects." Victor nodded. "Good. And cancel the rest of the event." The guard hesitated. "What about her?" Victor didn't look away from Elena. She's staying. The door closed. Elena's breath caught. Just barely. I don't want money, she said quickly. Or favors. I just want to go home. Victor studied her again, this time not as a threat, but as a variable he couldn't control. You don't get to choose that anymore, he said. Not tonight. Fear flickered in her eyes. Then resolve. Then say what you need to say, Elena replied. Because I'm not changing my story. Victor leaned back. Good, he said. Because I need the truth. She frowned. About what? About how a waitress noticed what my entire security team missed. Elena hesitated. And in that hesitation the past crept in. My father, she said slowly, used to tell me that the most dangerous rooms are the quietest ones. He trained people who protected men like you. Victor's jaw tightened. Name, he said. She swallowed. Daniel Morales. The name hit him like a blow. Victor's face drained of color. No, he whispered. That's not possible. Elena's brow furrowed. You knew him. Victor sat down heavily. Knew him, he said. He saved my life. 22 years ago. The air changed. Elena stared at him, disbelief cracking her composure. He disappeared, she said. After that job. They said it was an accident. Victor looked at her. They lied. Her chest tightened. What do you mean? Victor's voice dropped. Your father uncovered something. Something tied to me. And someone made sure he never finished the job. Elena stood abruptly, chair scraping the floor. You're saying... I'm saying, Victor interrupted gently, that tonight may not have been about me. The room felt smaller now. Heavier. Elena's voice shook for the first time. Then why keep me here? Victor met her gaze, something raw in his eyes. Because someone already tried to silence your family once, he said. And I won't let it happen again. When the truth finally speaks, silence is no longer an option. The rain started without warning. Sheets of it lashed against the glass walls of the penthouse safe room, turning the city below into a blur of trembling lights. Thunder rolled somewhere far off, deep and low, like the sky itself was holding a grudge. Elena stood near the window, arms folded tightly across her chest. Victor watched her from across the room. She looked smaller now, not weak but burdened, like someone who had just realized that the past she'd been running from had finally caught up, and brought company. You're saying my father died because of something he found, Elena said, her voice steady only because she forced it to be. Something connected to you. Yes. And tonight, someone tried to finish what they started. Victor nodded once. Elena let out a short, breathless laugh. All this time I thought he was just gone. That the world swallowed him and kept moving. The world did keep moving, Victor said quietly. That doesn't mean it was right. She turned on him suddenly. Then why didn't you do anything? The question cut deeper than she knew. Victor didn't answer immediately. He deserved that. When your father vanished, he said at last, I was building everything you see now. I told myself that survival required sacrifice, that some truths were too dangerous to pull into the light. Elena's eyes burned. So you chose silence. Yes. The word tasted bitter. And silence, Elena said, voice trembling, is what killed him. Victor stood. You're right. That admission, so simple, so unguarded, hung between them like a held breath. Before Elena could respond, Victor's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. His expression hardened. They've identified the person who poisoned the drink, he said. Elena's pulse spiked. Who? Someone who shouldn't have been able to get that close, Victor replied. Which means this wasn't a lone attempt. It was a reminder. A reminder of what? That unfinished business doesn't stay buried. The lights flickered. Security radios crackled outside the door. Victor moved closer to Elena. Not looming, but protective. They'll try again. Maybe not tonight. But soon. Elena looked up at him. Then let them. Victor stiffened. What? I spent years thinking my father died because the world didn't care, she said. Now I know the truth. And I'm done being quiet. She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a small, worn flash drive. Victor's eyes widened. He gave this to me the week before he disappeared, Elena said. Told me to keep it hidden. Told me if anything ever felt wrong, to remember what I knew. Victor took it carefully, as if it might shatter. What's on it? He asked. Everything, Elena said. Names. Transactions. Proof. The storm outside intensified. Thunder cracking close now. Victor looked at the drive. Then at her. This will burn down empires, he said. Good. Elena replied. Let them burn. For the first time since this night began, Victor smiled. Not the practiced smile of power, but something real. Something earned. You're braver than I was, he said. No, Elena answered softly. I just don't have the luxury of hiding. Victor nodded. Then he made his choice. We release it, he said. Publicly. Together. Elena blinked. Together. My name opens doors, Victor said. Yours gives it truth. They won't be able to silence us both. A long moment passed. Then Elena extended her hand. Victor took it. Outside, the storm began to break. When silence ends, truth finally breathes. The morning sun felt unfamiliar. Elena stood on the balcony of Victor Langford's penthouse, the city stretching beneath her like a living thing. Cars flowing, people waking, life continuing as if the night before hadn't nearly stolen one man's breath or reopened a wound 20 years deep. But for Elena, everything was different. Inside, Victor watched the news play silently across multiple screens. Breaking. Billionaire Victor Langford releases evidence exposing decades-long corporate cover-up. Former security contractor Daniel Morales cleared of all allegations, arrests expected. Victor exhaled slowly. For the first time in his life, he hadn't used power to protect himself, but to tell the truth. Elena stepped back inside. They're saying my father's name, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Victor turned. As they should have a long time ago. She nodded, tears finally escaping. Not of grief, but of release. Years of unanswered questions loosened their grip, replaced by something gentler. He didn't disappear, Elena said. He stood for something. Yes, Victor agreed. And so did you. The fallout was immediate. Boards dissolved. Allies vanished. Enemies scrambled. Victor Langford lost wealth that day, influence, illusions, but he gained something far rarer, peace. Weeks later, the ballroom was empty. No chandeliers, no orchestra, no whispered deals. Only sunlight pouring through tall windows as Elena walked through the space one last time. No longer in uniform, no longer invisible. Victor waited near the exit. "You don't owe me anything," he said as she approached. "I know," Elena replied. "That's why this matters." He handed her a folder. Inside was a deed, a scholarship fund, and a letter. "My father believed knowledge was protection," Elena said, reading. "You're continuing his work." Victor nodded. "I should have done it years ago." She smiled softly. "You did it when it mattered." They stood in silence. Not the dangerous kind, but the healed kind. As Elena turned to leave, she paused. "Why did you really keep me safe that night?" she asked. Victor thought for a moment. "Because someone once saved my life without asking for anything," he said. "And I didn't honor that. Until you reminded me how." Elena smiled and walked into the light. Some people save lives with words, some with power, and some quietly, with a single choice no one else notices. If this story moved you, tell us in the comments. Have you ever trusted your instincts when no one was watching? Your story might matter more than you know.